What is going on, gamers? Welcome back to more Total War Rome 2 tier list. Today I'll be doing the Kush faction. Now, this tier list is based off my opinion on legendary and very hard battle difficulty. Kush is one of those factions that has a lot of units, but in this tier list, I'm not going to include a few units that I'm going to show you here. So we've got the Slave Trader, which is giving the Slave Spearmen and Slave Infantry. These units I'm talking about, I've never used before, so that's why they're not being included. Also have the Desert Chariots, and there's one more that you actually grab through the temple here. The Disciples of a freaking Apatal, whatever. To start the list off, we're going to look at the Spear units. So we have the Nubian Spear, which is a tier 0 unit. You can recruit it at any settlement you get. And for a tier 0, it's actually pretty good compared to everything else around you. So you got like the Nubian Spear, the Egyptian Infantry, for an example. So it's actually a lot better than them. And for that reason, I'm going to throw this into B tier. The next guys on the list is the Leopard Spear Warriors. So the Leopard Warriors, they are a tier 3 unit. You recruit these guys alongside of the Shuttle Warriors here. For a tier 3 spear unit, these are actually not very good. And in fact, your tier 1 Greek Hoplite is way better than this actual unit. And for that, I'm going to put these guys in the C tier. All right, the next guys here is the sword unit. So we have the Slave Infantry. Slave Infantry is a tier 0 and it is garbage. Don't even bother using it. The next guy after that is the swords unit. So this guy is not too bad against everything else around you, but as soon as you get to Carthage, for example, or even against Rome, which Rome in my campaign actually made its way over to Africa, and against their tier 1 Hastati, they're not very good, so I'm gonna actually put these guys in the C tier. Now for Kush's signature infantry, we have the Shuttle Warriors and the Armored Shuttle Warriors tier 3, tier 4. They are a little bit more expensive than your average tier 3. They're actually probably one of the most expensive for a tier 3 unit. They do have a little bit more melee defense over other tier 3s. The thing is, they do lack a little bit of melee attack and weapon damage. The Shuttle Warriors, unfortunately, in my books, they're actually pretty disappointing even for their cost, and for that I'm going to throw this guy in the B tier, and the Armored Shuttle Warriors, I'm going to throw them in the A tier. They're not quite S tier for me. They do have a lot more armor over other ones. The Armored Shuttle Warriors obviously says armor in the name, but their melee attack weapon damage is a lot lower. As you can see, Kush has one option for Pikemen. Pikemen in the game are basically broken no matter which one you use. These ones aren't as good as the Greeks, basically they're tier 1 or tier 2 whenever you recruit them. They're not too bad at all, and I'm going to throw these guys in the B tier. Now we're on to the ranged infantry. So we have the Tribesmen and the Slave Slingers. So the Tribesmen is actually a tier 1, and it's actually pretty garbage. And the Slave Slingers. Now, Slingers I usually prioritize a little bit higher on the list, but unfortunately the Slave Slingers are probably the worst slinger in the game. Basically all their armor is in their shield, and they have 0 skirmish capabilities. And for that, I'm also going to throw these guys in the D tier as well. One of the nicest things about Kush is their bowman options. So we have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. This is the regular archers, this is Nubian bowmen, this is the Kush archers, and this is the Royal Kushite, same thing, archers. This guy here is basically nothing too special. It's your basic archer, so that's C tier. The Nubian bowman is just a little bit better. It's got a little bit more range. That's pretty much about it. So I'm going to throw these guys in B tier. Now, these two are your signature archers for Kush. They've got a little bit more armor. I'm going to put this guy in the A tier, and I'm going to put the Royal Kushite archer in the S tier. The reason why you have these mapped out like this is I'll show you. Compared to a lot of archers, these Kush archers do have way more abilities. Unfortunately, the poison shot is for specific cases only, but they have the snipe and the stalk ability as well. And if we go to the Royal archers, basically a whole freaking list here. So they're actually pretty good archers. Next up on the list is the cavalry. We have the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, Desert Cavalry, Ethiopian Cavalry, Armored Desert Cavalry, and the Kushite Royal Guard. The thing with the first 3 cavalry is that they do have high melee attack, weapon damage, and also melee defense, but they do lack armor. So unfortunately, I'm going to throw these first 2 in the C tier. Armored Desert Cavalry just has more armor, obviously, so I'm going to throw that in the B tier. And the Kushite Royal Guard. These guys do have higher melee attack over their counterparts, so tier 4, which is a nice thing about them. They do have actually relatively decent armor. I mean, it's not the highest I've seen, but it's actually relatively decent. But it's the melee defense which makes these guys pretty good. And for that reason, I'm going to throw it in the A tier. As always, on my tier lists, I always put elephants in the S tier, which those are going right up to S tier. Elephants are extremely good in the game, and these are also the Scythe Chariots here. So Scythe Chariots are basically like a glass cannon. They do a ton of damage, but they don't have good survivability, and they're a little bit awkward to use when you get them like stuck in melee combat. These guys are also going to go the S tier as well. The last units you see here are the generals. So we have the Royal Kushite Archers, African War Elephants, Royal Kushite Guard, and Scythe Chariots. hits. Now, the thing with generals in my books is that they have to have decent survivability, and generals are usually one of those things where it's like when shit hits the fan, you have to send them in. When it comes to archers, I wouldn't prioritize them pretty high on the list, so I'm going to throw this general here in particular in the B tier. Elephants are going to go in the S tier. The cavalry is going to go in the A tier, and the scythe chariots are going to go in the B tier. The reason why the scythe chariots are in the B tier is because of their survivability. You kind of have to constantly use them in order to get the full potential. All in all, the Kush faction is actually pretty fun to play, so if you've not yet played with them, I do recommend playing as them. And the nice thing about Kush too is that you do start out in a corner which is really OP in the game, and it's a lot easier to actually conquer settlements from here. Like you go from here to Egypt, which is a lot easier as opposed to having to worry about all your flanks getting covered. But anyways, guys, this is my tier list. Thanks for watching. Peace out.